Good evening to everybody. Welcome to the today class to the students of the International Human Rights Law, and that we are dealing the globalization impact on the human rights. I believe that yes, anyone can unmute and read what I posted on the screen. Hurry up. Anyone can unmute and read what I posted on the screen. Okay, there is a problem. I think the internet. Okay, let me read it. Impact on the globalization on the human rights. Globalization has its winners and losers. With the expansion of the trade, market, foreign investment, developing countries have seen the gaps among themselves widen. The imperative to liberalize has demanded a shrinking of the state involvement in national life, producing a wave of privatization, cutting jobs, slashing health, education and food subsidies, etc., affecting the poor people in the society. In many cases, liberalization has been accompanied by a greater inequality and people are left trapped in the utter poverty. And here in this slide, it is seen that globalization and liberalization is having a many impact on the human rights, and the people will be suffered because of the privatization, and the jobs would be cut down, national life, and there would be an involvement of the national life producing the wave of the privatization. At that instance, they do appoint their own hands which are worth enough to them, then a man with the unskilled person could not get the employment. And the slashing health, at that instance, there will not be a, of course, nowadays they are giving the health insurance and the health insurance policy where the employees could get the health checkups and the health maintenance could be done. Come to the matter of education, no, because education, they will not give the less importance and full subsidies. Of course, subsidies are there for the food, etc. And when it is given over there, at the time, lack of the food for the poor people in society, in many cases, liberalization has accompanied by the greater inequality will be there. So this is the slide which gives a sense of it. Now let us go to the, yes, anyone can unmute and read the what is the second slide which I put it over there on the screen. Whatever the second slide, anyone can unmute and read. Participants, there is a problem it seems. Okay, let me read it. Impact of globalization. Of course, for anything there will be advantages and there will be disadvantages. Let us see the advantages. Advantages of globalization. Borderless world. Yes, people will go from one country to another country. There is no restriction to them and there is no border for them. Number one. Number two, powerful corporations. Now the corporate sector would be there which will make the monopoly. Sometimes corporate sector get the cream and they will give only the butter. They eat the butter and they give the buttermilk to a farmer. They will buy from the farmer with a cheaper rate and they will sell at the higher rate by keeping a good pack in the malls, in the supermarkets. The corporate would be there. Of course, I don't know what would the corporate culture over here, whether there such a people are there, buy the things and sell in their own markets. Yes, there is powerful corporations is there. Number three, global citizens. And now the people become global citizens because they will grown somewhere, they will be brought up somewhere, they will study somewhere in the country, they marry somewhere, they have the children in some other country and their education also. And hence, there is no particularly the person would be there to say, because one can become a citizen of a Tanzania also, provided if you fulfill the conditions and forego the original citizenship of by birth. So now it becomes a global citizens now is the advantage. And the fourth one is interlinked economies. Yes, now economic linkage would be there because of the trade and commerce and export and import, and the people will send the goods and they will buy the goods. So these are the interlinked economies advantages there because of the globalization. Now come to the fifth point is changes in laws. Yes, law of the country will be a little bit different over there, except general principles are the same. But other things, it depends upon the culture, civilization, and the economic value, and plus the religious thinking and the faith, customs, it will be incorporated in their statutes, including the constitution also. So that's why changes in the laws are there. At that instance, when a dispute comes over there, then the subject, private international law, comes to their rescue. The sixth one is deregulations. And most of the people, they don't follow the regulations. And that, of course, here advantage they said is the regulations which are there, which will cause a harm to a person, hence some certain times it will be justice not to follow the regulations, because a person will not get anything. And that is my view. The deregulations are there, and the regulations will be a bit relaxed, and that is the reason one can sell the goods over here and work over here and do the job here, do the business, and moreover the invest over here in the other country. So the regulations are not there that they should have to be in their own country. They can migrate, they can go, they can fly, provided following conditions, the legal conditions should be fulfilled over there, like visa. The seventh one, privatization. So in the government, many organizations were there before it. When the Tanzania became a republic, the independent at the time, most of the industries are nationalized, and the government will run its own industries or regulate, I mean, electricity or any other thing like schools and college, hospitals. They're all are run by the government only. But after some times, the government people say they are swallowing the money. I don't know whether they're swallowing the money or they could not do the proper work over there and keeping their own businesses, and the less importance would be given to the institution. For instance, you take the medical side. If the government would be there and they will not get anything except the salary, and they do have the private practice in the evening, so less importance will be given to the government work and more in the private work. So now the government also think that instead of running it the losses, better we give to the privatization and get whatever the revenue would be there solid, and that will be the used in the development activity of the country. So privatization is mostly done because of this globalization. That is the reason even we do have the case law here, Raymond versus the electricity board, because now the electricity is produced by the private organization at the time, and that is the reason even the most of the things also privatized. So privatization is it is having the impact. Of course, because privatization is economic values will be there, people will work good, and GDP will be increased, export and import will be increased, and there is a monitoring would be there every time. So the privatization have its own impact, and a good also the advantage of the globalization. And the eighth one, efficient technological innovations. Yes, because not only the people will be migrated, they will migrate with their own technologies. And that technology could be used over there. When they want to go away, there is a condition that they leave the technology over there and you can go away. Go away, if it is such a thing would be there. If the contract is over. Of course, they take the lease, and the government will give the subsidies also if any foreign country wants to establish the industry in Tanzania. So efficient technology innovations will be there because of globalization. People will be migrated and they do the business, and they do have the link with the other countries. They will make the export and import. That's why the technological innovations are there. That is an advantage of the globalization. Now let us see the disadvantage. Of course, advantages are 8 and disadvantages are 5. Now let us see how the 5 would be there. Number 1, huge disparity. Because of the people disparity, they will take it out, because I told you that a corporate sector will become the more richer, and the people, those who are employed by the corporation or corporate sector, and those employers, are their salaries are more, and they lead the luxury life, and the other people will lead a ordinary, common life, and because their salaries are less. So that is the thing which would be the disadvantage for the huge disparity. Now, the second point is company closures. Because of the globalization, suppose the local companies are there, and the way the corporate sector will come and they will open there with a big investment at the time, the small companies, they will be closed. So that is the disadvantage of the globalization. Yeah, karibu sana Sakinapal. So the second point is company closures are there. There is a disadvantage of the globalization. Now the third point is sometimes unemployment, because they get their own skilled people from the other country. At that time, unemployment would be there. Hence, the government should have to keep a condition that if the high skilled people, those who could not get it in Tanzania, okay, you can import them or you can bring them from your own country. But for the casual labor and unskilled people, you should be taken from the Tanzania. At that instant, at least employment would be there. But if they get their own people, or the machinery is there, automatic machinery is there, and which will not take any labor at all, it will pack it, it will seed it, it will send it, everything it can be done by the automatic machine, then the unemployment will be more. So that is the another disadvantage for the globalization, because the innovative technology, they will come over there where the labor is less. Earlier we want to dig it, people used to employ the people, the government used to employ the people, workers to dig it, dig it. Now proclaimers are there, shovels are there, dozers are there, and they will do all the business where the 10 members or 100 members are doing, it will do in 1 hour or 2 hours because of the technological development. And thus it leads to the unemployment. So number 4 is corporation backed government policies. And corporation, when it comes to dominate some of the policies of the government, they can overlook it, and mostly they will violate it also, because of they're rich, and they would even try to exploit the women and the children also, because they come from the other country not with their wives, and hence to quench their thirst, biological thirst, they will abuse the women of the local women and the children also. So these are the corporation back the government policies. Policies will not be followed over there, and there is a drawback, and hence there is a disadvantage for the globalization. And the fifth one is human right violation, as I told you just now, because they will come along and they will not bring their families at the time. Their biological need would be there, and that's why they would like to abuse it with the force. Of course, if any woman is coming over there voluntarily, that is a different issue. Because I told you the India made a judgment which is very controversial as per the civilization is concerned. Now, women can sell the body, means she can make the business, and it is like a profession. It's like a profession. At that instance, people will not work, and they will not find the domestic servants, because with the domestic servant hardly will give the 60,000 or 80,000 or 1 lakh. But if they sell her body, she can get the 20 to 50,000, depending upon the rate of it. So the human right violation is more over there for the globalization, because different nature of the people will come with a different culture, and that's why cultural differences would be there, and it will have the impact on the religious things also. and because most of the countries, the God-fearing countries, including the Tanzania. At that instance, they will come with a wide opening minds, and that's the reason that the human rights violations will be comes under the disadvantage. So these are the two slides that which I would like to make it out. Now, what we left in the last class here, let us see that because I put it. Oh, shall I close it? No, it will be there. Okay, just let me open it. Open the file. Yeah. And here, impact of the globalization on the human rights we are studying. And then we'll say find, because I put the asterisk here. Yes, the asterisk it is here. Okay. Now I remove it and I will minimize it. Yeah. The asterisk I put it over there because of the yesterday's we stopped up to here. Now let us see that because the globalization has not caused the developing countries to catch up with the developed world. Inequality has risen during this present globalization period, and the developed world, their intellectuals and policymakers view globalization as a providing good opportunity for their countries, not the place where they want to invest it, their countries and their people, because they will get their people and of their own to work over here, then unemployment would be there in the place where the investment is could be done. So globalization can be preserved from two angles. What is that? One angle is that globalization is means of increasing the wealth of nation and promoting international trade. One angle is very good. Globalization is a means of increasing the wealth of the nation. Yes, the GDP will be increased over there because production is there, industry is there, and much growth is there. Even the cultivation comes over there, even cultivation also be there, and we can sell the products, and it is easily available to the subjects and to the other countries also. If any product is immense over there and highly produced over there, and such products will be exported. If any product is not there, either the food material or any other thing, then it will be imported. So one angle is that globalization means increasing the wealth of the nations. It is true. And promoting the international trade. Yeah. Because trade and commerce will be high. And we will have the different countries, we will make a trade agreements with them. So however, globalization is a direct cause for the widening the economic gap between the developing countries and the developed countries. This is the another angle of it is there. There will become a wide gap, it will be there instead of making the narrow one, because developed countries will develop more, developing countries still it will be in the same position of the developing countries. So that would be the there where the Wadran 2010 and he cited. There is a relationship between the globalization and equality and non-discrimination in more concrete fashion. When you say the globalization, there will have certain relationship. Equality, all will be treated equal, and non-discrimination, and there should not be any discrimination in more concrete fashion. Because with that we only the globalization could be done. The two concepts are central to the corpus and ethos of the human rights instruments and practices. Even the international instruments also says over there, they have to protect, they have to see the security of the state and peace would be maintained over there wherever they go. The two concepts are central to the corpus means the body, and the ethos of the human rights instrument and practices. So the two should be follow these international instruments, the globalization aspect of it. Either the developed countries or developing countries, they should not try to exploit the developing countries, and they will become more developed by exploiting it. Just now I told you that they will eat the cream and the buttermilk will be given to you. So that would be the policy would be there where there is a gap will be widened from the developed to the developing countries. The Universal Declaration and other human rights instruments are unequivocal in their declaration that all persons are equal. They made it very much clear, and there is no ambiguity at all. And all persons are equal, and that the right to non-discrimination is a basic and fundamental human right. That is to say, there will not be any discrimination. That's why they say non-discrimination, and all treated to be equal, either whether they are white, black, language, culture, skin, and dialect and their behavior. I mean, cultural or socio-economic, all the conditions. It should not be any discrimination at all. Inequality and the discrimination unfortunately existed long before the globalization. But the globalization came later part. But this inequality and discrimination, it is long back, it is existed over there and recognized as a distinct phenomena on the international scene. Of course, it is long back would be there, such a discrimination would be there, that is a different issue. That is the phenomena would be there. But once the globalization would be there, and we'll see that more advantages should be there, should be or must be in the globalization when you come to the matter of the disadvantage and impact on the human rights. Yes, now, Sakina Paul, can you read this,
Yes.
which is highlighted here? Read this one.
Okay. Among the distinct group of society upon whom globalization's impact has been most telling, women clearly stand out. Few observers will deny that the general issues of gender relations globally and the question of women's human rights specifically has undergone significant transformation, spurred on by the various international conferences, declarations, and most significantly by the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women.
Yes. Among the distinct group of society, the some of the society upon whom globalization impact and has been most telling, having the impact, and of course they are revealing it. Telling we should not use it. Telling is not a proper way. Revealing or expressing, women clearly stand out. And here they stand out the women, they should be very clearly. How few observers will deny that the general issue of the gender relation globally. Because of globalization, a woman also awakened, and a woman also does the same job like a man. If they are skilled one, and if they are having the knowledge, if they studied it, and if they given a good training to them. And the question of women's human rights specifically, when it comes to the matter of the human rights specifically, even though there would be exploitation of the women either in the workplace or in the house or in the fields, has undergone the significant transformation. But the exploitation is there depending upon the consent of a woman. But nowadays, the women transformation is very high because women are highly educated and they are more than the man in the study, in the job, in the earning. Nowadays, they are coming up because the equal rights were being given for the male and female. That is the reason. So transformation would be there for the women's and the human rights. Spurred means here on various international conferences, the quick movement would be made by the various international conferences, declarations, and more significantly by the conventions on the elimination of the all form of the discrimination against the women. So there are many international instruments are there, treaties are there, conventions are there, protecting the women who are the vulnerable as well as the child who is also vulnerable and the marginalized, these people. And these conventions and treaties making the protection to the women as well as to the children. That means there is a lot of transformation of the women from at the time woman is restricted to the only kitchen. Nowadays, even you do have the woman prime minister in India. In India, Indira Gandhi at the time ruled over there, but now in the Tanzania, woman prime minister would be there. So don't you think that there would be a transformation of the women's status? Yes? Sakina, unmute and give me the answer. Unmute and give me the answer. Is the problem? Because I could not see your mic. Okay, no matter. Huh? So there is a lot of transformation of the women's status is increased because of the globalization. The respect for and recognition for the women's right has made a significant advance worldwide. Yes, the respect and recognition of the women's and the human rights has made a significant advances because of the charter and such a treaties. The phenomenon of the globalization adds a greater complexity to this quest, particularly in the economic arena, but also within the context of the culture and politics. Now the question comes, the globalization phenomena is a greater complexity is brought over there in the quest, particularly in the economic arena, because I told you now, the richer becomes richer and the poor becomes more. The gap is the same, even the gap is widened after the globalization because of the exploitation by the developed country to the underdeveloping country. But also within the context of the culture, of course, cultural change also be there, and the politics and their behavior, attitude, everything will be different. So it will have the impact also on the culture, civilization, and the religious feeling also. This this have the impact on these points or the issues. Women in the agricultural sector have also been adversely affected by the promotion of the export-oriented economic policies, trade liberations, and TNC's activities in agriculture and related industry. I told you now before, and when the in the agriculture field, when you want to plowing, at the time people used to engage over there for plowing. Kulima, plowing means. But now the tractors have come and it will done the work within 1 hour, 2 hour, the area which will be done by the even 10 or 20 members in a day. So because of that, there is a less possibility of their employment even for the women, and otherwise they would have to get the employment, disguised form of employment in the agriculture field. So that was the thing which has happened because of the globalization. Because they were the innovator technology, they will bring it and they try to make it out. So 10 members are doing the work, only one machine could do. Sometimes even 100 members doing the work, only one machine could do. Like plowing is there, where the 10 members would do for the one day, even 1 hour, even a machine will do. That is a tractor plowing the land. Emphasis on the export crops has displaced women workers in certain countries for permanent agricultural employment into the seasonal employment. So at the time, the permanent employment would be there with the agriculture field, but nowadays because of the water and fertile land and even the capital will not be having the farmers, so they can raise it only one harvest or at the most two harvests. But earlier they used to make the three harvest also, and thus the women and the man will get the full employment over there and good production. Of course, now the production is there, no doubt, but there is the unemployment would be there, and the women are displaced from the working in the agriculture field. Even they migrated to the cosmopolitan cities or metropolitan cities for the employment and working as a domestic servants, because there is no employment there in the villages for the agriculture labor. So subsistence framing has been severely affected in the new economic environment, leaving a woman farmers to seek the seasonal employment. At the time now, only the seasonal employment would be there. Only one season or two seasons they will work it. Otherwise, they should sit in the house or they migrate to the cities to do the domestic work over there or construction work as a casual labor. Aside from the tenuous and low economic returns of the seasonal agriculture employment, in the seasonal agriculture employment where the income is very much less. So if you do the work in other areas, a bit income would be more. Like a casual labor, if you go, the income will be more when you compare with the seasonal employment in the agriculture field in the villages. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, has noted that the destruction of the subsistence farming, increased industrial pollution, and the loss of the land to large commercial ventures, often financed by the TNCs, have given a rise to grave problem relating to the food security and the health of the rural poor. Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations 1998, they said. See, when the industries are established over there, the plowing land will go to the industry establishments. So, and the producing of the agricultural products will be lessened over there because the land will be occupied by the industries for the factories and the houses and for the residence of the people, schools, community halls. They will construct in that area, and hence agricultural land become industrial land now. So products will be lessened, so unemployment will be more for the women, those who wants to rely on it. So it is increasingly becoming clear that there is no longer tenable to draw a neat distinction between the nature of the state obligation with regard to the civil and political rights on the one hand and the economic and social and cultural rights on the other hand. So when the migrated people are there, yes, definitely it will be a threat on their religious feelings, cultural activities, economic and social activities would be disrupted because of the various culture. People will come and migrate to the other nation, and they will try to live in the same fashion which they lived in their own country. But when the country which doesn't allow them to do such a thing, yes, they try to make the abuse and violate the human rights. So United Nations human rights mechanism have debunked the traditional view that the civil and political rights entail only the negative obligations, while economic and social cultural rights give rise to the more complex issue of the positive state obligation, which require the resources to be expanded. See, either you can say political rights or civil rights, cultural rights, or economic rights, or religious rights. Definitely, there would be impact would be there because of the globalization. So now the United Nations Human Rights Committee has interpreted certain rights guaranteed by the ICCPR as entailing a positive obligations. Of course, the Human Rights Committee has given the report that because of the globalization, there is a good GDP growth would be there and high employment would be created for the local people, and the export and import would be there, and a good sanitation would be maintained, and hospitals would be established for the health care, and the government also could get the good revenue. With that revenue, they can do the development plans in that country because of the globalization. This is clearly the case with regard to the right to life. Yes. Now the question of right to say the right to life, it goes that clean environment would be there, and without polluted air should be there, and no vibration, and peace and security would be there. So these are dignity of the life is there. In general comment, that is on Article 6, the committee interpreted a report of the Human Rights Committee in 1982. The right to life in a broader manner, it takes a lot of things that requires the state parties to take the positive action, that is EG means exemplary gratia, to reduce the infant mortality. Yes, healthcare is concerned, to increase the life expectancy. If the medical health is improved over there, then the people life longevity will be increased, and to take the measure to eliminate the malnutrition and epidemics. So when there is a malnutrition would be there for the people, they try to eliminate it, and they will see that no epidemic and no pandemic should come over there. So epidemic is dogo, pandemic is makubwa. So epidemic is less impact and the pandemic is having the more impact, and it will suffer a lot. Many people will suffer a lot. That's why we don't say epidemic for the COVID-19. What do you say? COVID-19? Sakina, unmute and give me the answer. We don't say COVID-19 as epidemic. What do you say COVID-19? Unmute and give me the answer. Second of all, we will say pandemic. Okay. The negative effect of the corporation on the human rights in development can be divided into two categories. First, the corporation may directly violate the human rights by itself in conjunction with another actor. The corporation, they try to violate it because they want to get the good income by violating the good income by pressurizing the people, and not taking care of their health, not providing the good safety places for them to work. So that is number one. The corporation may directly violate the human rights by itself and or in conjunction with another actor. Even the local actor also they will take it out. And this typically involves the civil and political rights such as the right to personal security. For example, a corporation may hire state security forces to protect its facilities that engage in torture as occurred in Myanmar in association with the local corporations. So Myanmar, there would be a genocide would be there in Myanmar, area called Burma, and where the many Muslim people are killed by the Buddhist people, because in Myanmar Buddhism is more. So genocide is there. Many people will migrate to other countries, including India. They have migrated, or other countries they taken the shelter because there is a heavy, what is a cultural difference would be there, and the one sect will dominate the another sect. Like the Buddhism, they dominates on the Islam. They don't want that Islam should be there in that country. No, because everybody is having their own religion. You should have to respect the religion. And we cannot say the one religion would be there, because people who practice the different faith, different religions. It doesn't mean that they should not supposed to stay over there. No, they should supposed to stay over there, because there is a tendency would be there, cooperation would be there, understanding would be there, because we are a human being, we are educated, we are not an animal, we are not leading a barbaric life now. It is a civilized nation and everybody is educated, and hence the international agreements are there and the charters are there, and where the state are the parties, government is the parties. So it is the responsibility of the government to see that nothing should be happen to the subject, including the foreigners, those who are staying in that country, either working or either doing the business. So also a corporation may directly violate the rights by prohibiting the collective bargaining or discriminating against the minorities. So when the minority, when the corporates are there, they try to exploit the chances, and there will not be a collective bargaining would be there, and they do have the high bottom line, and the local people have the low bottom line. Even the minorities also will not raise their voice. They will just work whatever the remuneration is paid to them. The second category concerns the indirect effect. How the indirect effect? This involves the corporation influence on host government. See, the corporation with their powerful hand and powerful financially very sound, and they will try to dominate on the host government by giving the bribe, or by doing some other activities, or making them different phenomena. They can make it out, but they try to see that the host government, their influence on the host government. Corporation can undermine the state's ability to fulfill the human rights law. So they use their influence to encourage the governments to adopt the policies of liberalization. So the host government, they will see that corporation, they will see that policy of liberalization should be followed in their country, and their own policy should be removed from there. So deregulations will come over there, and the privatization that ignore human rights consequences. When the privatization is there, naturally there is a human right violation, and deregulations are there. Definitely there would be a certain aspect violations are there because of this liberalization and the globalization. The second effect concerns mostly economic, social, and cultural rights, which are vital developing states. So that is another effect. Corporations are the engines of the economic growth upon which the state depends for the positive provision of the right to development. So corporations are like the engine of economic growth. So it will drag all the things upon which states depends for the provisions of the right to development. The state will depend for the provision of the right to development, and of course, state should have to give us such a cooperation to the corporation to see that it will run smoothly. Then only the development would be there, economic development come out. Increasingly, corporations are more economically powerful. As I said, corporators are more powerful. They dominate even the government also. They will host government, they will dominate it, and they will try to influence on them, and they try to change their policies also to make the policies of the international agreements. And so corporations are more economically powerful and influential than the developing host states from which they extract their profit. So because of their powerness, they try to extract the profits. So the members of the World Trade Organization, when negotiating and implementing the international rules on trade liberalization, should bear in mind their concurrent obligation to promote and protect the human rights, mindful of the commitment made in the Vienna Declaration 1993. So whenever the liberalization would be there, they would try to keep such a harmony would be there, and there would not be any violation of the human rights would be made in other country. That human rights are the first responsibility of the government. Of course, the government should have to take the initiative to see that there would not be any violation, because that government or the state, they are the party to the charter and the treaty. So while the WTO agreement, what is WTO, World Trade Organization? Agreements provide a legal framework for the economic aspects of the liberalization of the trade, and the rules and the standard of the human rights balance this by offering the legal framework for a trade liberation, social and ethical dimensions. When they are making the liberalization over there, naturally they will make the how the policy should be there, what are the agreements should be there, and how the provisions should be incorporated to see that there would not be a violation of the human rights. The human rights violations resulting from the globalization are failure of the governance. Suppose if there is a violation of the violations are there because of the globalization, then we can say that it is a failure of the governance only and the government only. Human rights law is capable of the monitoring and regulating the foreign investment. So it will also check that they will monitor and regulate the foreign investment and their behavior and their culture, their profit, everything they will observe it. Respect for the human rights requires the government to protect, promote and fulfill obligations. At that time, if any subject will be respected over there, then the government should have to see that they do protect and promote and fulfill the obligations which are there in international treaties and conventions. The right to development process can provide a framework focused on the implementation of the right-based approach to the development. So, because anything will be done for the development of the country only, for the development of the people, for the GDP increase. The right to development is a versatile and promote global responsibility for the globalization. So development definitely it is having the good, affinity or the proportionate for the globalization. If the globalization is more, the right to development is more. So of course, the plus points also there, negative points also there, but the plus points are more because we read it in the another slide. Advantages are 8 and disadvantages are 5. So declaration on the right to development requires the state to guarantee the right of manner applicable to globalization. So declaration, they will make it very much clear, right to development for the state. The state should have to take a challenge and see that it will see that there will not be any abuse there in their country. In order to be universal and remain relevant, human rights law must protect those marginalized by the exigencies of the globalization of the empowering the local peoples. So where there is a people are marginalized over there, the government should have to take the highly initiative step and see that there will not be any violations to the marginalized people. Development strategy consistent of the liberal trading regimes with a reduced role for the state. Of course, the state role is much for the protection of the human rights. To promote and protection of the human rights, the state responsibility is more. Despite the new challenges arising from the globalization process, and the state remains the only full subject of the international law responsible under the human rights law. Yes, because the international law will merely clear that there would be a human right protection would be there because the state is a subject of the charter. It is the state acting individually or collectively that ultimately control the international relations. So that is the clear-cut idea that either individually or collectively, they ultimately controls the international relations. They have to maintain it because they are the members of this. They are the member to the charter. The production of right generally requires a legal system that is effective and credible, and such system don't come free. So here, when you say the production of the right generally, there would be a certain legal system would be there, and it should be effectively and credibly made when the international charter's provisions will be incorporated and domesticated in their local laws. So that is called municipal laws. Moreover, many rights require some additional sacrifices of other human wants. Of course, when you want to make a change, change will come only you have to sacrifice certain things to get the new things. Of course, the old things will go very late because to adapt the new things. So that is the human tendency is there. So moreover, the might right many rights require some additional sacrifices other human wants. Minimum wages, right to unionize, environmental standards, and social security system, for example, all come at the price of an increase in the cost of goods and services. All come at the price of an increase in the cost of goods and services or an increase in taxation. Of course, when the increase the taxation will be there, naturally the state exchequer will be the high and they can do the development activity. So everything could be done by the cost and services only there because pay as you earn, that is the Tanzania system. Whatever that amount you get, there would be a tax, 30%. So of course, very few people are there, those who are exempted from the tax because their income is not crossing the limit where it can be taxed. So not all effects globalization will infringe human rights, but some of them may. Okay, whatever the globalization will meet there, it will not infringe all the things, but it will definitely will have certain impacts on certain things. But overall, what I want to say is globalization makes the country's development more, and there is a security would be also be there because of it. Every country will a sovereign country when they are member of the charter and all countries will respect to the charter and they will follow it. If any country will not follow, if any state will not be followed over there, at that time, that the UNO, the agency will make a sanction against that country, and the sanctions in the form of diplomatic relations will be curtailed, no transportations and no imports and exports to the country, and thus it will be isolated over there till it will be normalized and follow the accept of it. And in the same way, the Libya also, it is completely the diplomatic relations were curtailed over there. But later on, after some times, yes, now the diplomatic relations and export and import, people migrations, it is going on as usual. And when you matter comes to the Ethiopia and Eritrea also, the diplomatic relations was not there because at the time it is a war. It is around about 1999 and 200. Yes, but now after the few years later, now I came to know that the diplomatic relations will be resumed between Ethiopia and Eritrea. The people are migrating one place to another place. Otherwise, the people of Eritrea should be stay in the Eritrea only. People of Ethiopia should be stayed with Ethiopia. And there is a transfer of the people would be there at the time when the war was there. Because at the time I was working in the University of Asmara, Eritrea. So we have given the 3 months holidays with the pay and we enjoyed it. And when the war is able to calm down because the UN has sent the US security forces, peace security, UN peace security would be there, peace, and they see that there would not be any war between them and it is normalized over there, then the people will be migrated from one place to another place. And but now it is relations are close together because of a country will not prosper if they don't have the relations with the other country. And the trade and business, if they don't have it, a country definitely will not prosper because it will be isolated. When you are in a society, you will mingle with the society. If you don't mingle with the society, better live in the forest. Are you following me, Sakina?
Yes.
There are still 5 minutes are
Yes.
there. I don't know whether I can play this because the 3 minutes would be played. Let me check it because it is also deals about the.
My name is Mihir Kanade and I will be instructing the upcoming 9 weeks online course on globalization and human rights. The 21st century is described as the age of globalization, a phenomenon which is increasingly affecting human beings in every aspect of their lives. While globalization has undoubtedly resulted in significant economic and social integration at the global level, the pace and manner in which it is occurring has also brought with it several consequences for the respect and promotion of human rights at other levels. The principal drivers of globalization include both phenomena such as migration, arts, technology on the one hand, as well as institutions such as the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, World Trade Organization, business corporations, amongst others, on the other hand. Many of these institutional drivers of globalization have often been accused of keeping human rights issues out of their respective domains. Business corporations, for instance, have been accused of undermining human rights grossly and at times even being complicit in gross violations. Apart from these factors, there are several other linkages between globalization and human rights, such as development aid, Millennium Development Goals, intellectual property rights, traditional knowledge, amongst others, that interact with human rights at different levels. The critical challenge facing the present world order, therefore, lies in ensuring that the vehicles of globalization are oriented towards development and promotion of human rights through appropriate laws and policies. Now, it's quite clear that states have the primary responsibility to respect, protect, and fulfill human rights, and they need appropriate capacity to do so, or what is also known as policy space. But do states have the necessary policy space to deal with the adverse impacts of globalization? What is the scope and nature of that policy space, and how does it get shaped by globalization? This course will enter into a critical inquiry of all those factors influencing the respect, protection, and fulfillment of human rights in the face of globalization. It will introduce participants to the major themes and debates concerning these different linkages between globalization and human rights, and explore the new streams of critique that have enabled a confluence as well as a questioning of the globalization and human rights interface. This course is principally an endeavor into deciphering and deconstructing our contemporary world and understanding why is it the way it is. It not only seeks to make sense of a globalized world, but also seeks to plug in the gaps emerging out of other transdisciplinary fields of study, such as peace and conflict, environment, gender, and international law. I look forward to joining you all in a journey of critically examining globalization and its impacts on human rights.